So literally right before we sat down, the Bank of England decided they're going to hike interest rates by 50 points on the back of the US Fed, 75 points. Recession looking more likely now, even though nobody wants to say that word. Your thoughts?
Well, someone pointed out to me the other day, but you probably know better than me, that the Fed, once it starts to raise interest rates, doesn't stop until the interest rates have turned positive. In other words, where the interest rates are higher than the rate of inflation. So on that basis, they've got some way to go in the US and the UK. But what we can't tell, because so much of it's driven by external events, is whether, if it looks like you're going into recession, does inflation start to abate? So I think it's going to be a very uncertain period over the next year or so. And I talked to a range of different people about this, and which is always a problem when you're trying to make economic policy in government. No one agrees with each other. So I think we're definitely in for a difficult situation. The question is, if you could get inflation coming down faster, would then the pressure on interest rates obviously be relieved? But at the moment, if you take that equation between interest rates and inflation, it's still got some way to run.
There's still some pain we're going to be experiencing. We also have a new prime minister. It's been a busy couple of weeks for the United Kingdom. She comes into power not only with the transition of your monarch, but also with massive challenges on her plate. How do you feel about her priorities as she's so far addressed them?
I mean, you've got short-term challenge, which is the energy price rise, because this is huge, and then you've got a longer-term challenge. On the short-term challenge, with the rise in energy costs, it's just important to understand what this means in Britain and across Europe. I mean, household bills will literally treble, right? You're going to be talking about thousands of pounds more that people will be forced to pay. So the government's going to have to intervene, because frankly, a large part of the population literally won't be able to pay it. And also, if you try and force them to pay it, you'll have a massive negative impact on the economy. Okay. So you've got a short-term issue where government's going to have to subsidize, effectively, energy costs through this winter. The long-term question that she's identified is the right question, which is around growth. And because, when I was Prime Minister, we had growth rates, well above 2% was the trend rate of growth. We've been growing well under 2%. And, you've got to get the growth rates up, because if you don't, one of the first things you realize in government is if growth's strong, revenues are strong. If revenues are strong, you can spend money on public services. If the growth rates are low or you're in recession, then suddenly everything looks worse and you're having to cut back on services. So she's right to target growth. Now, she's going for a particular way to do that, which is a lot of tax cuts and so on. Personally, I think the big questions around growth long-term for Britain are around the technology revolution, infrastructure, and education. So whatever she's doing on tax cuts and so on, for me, the big three things are really those, and it's too early to say whether she has plans for those or not.